How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. And thank you so much for joining us. I always love country music. I always enjoy Saturday afternoons with the country classics. And that song about if I can only make it through December keeps playing in my mind. I know the connotation of it. Well, 2020 draws almost to a close. I pray, as a friend reminded me the other evening, that I hope it's not the trailer for the 2021 preview. But we'll see.
I hadn't thought of that.
It is the monthly Mental Health Matters, and we want you to be a part of this discussion, not because it's the last one for the year in the calendar, but because of its important topic. And we have the excellent company, so quickly go to your YouTube channel and you can see her in person, the wonderful Dr. Alexandra Warden and the rest of our guests. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thanks again for joining us. And again, thanks to Miss Susan for letting me give her sometimes, a little bit more, a little bit more challenges, put it that way. She has all the ups and downs, but we want you to be, luckily you can't hear what she just said. Ding-a-ling-a-ling. 949-8037 or 1-800-534 is, another number you can use, compliments of Flow. It is our monthly Mental Health Matters. We have the excellent company of Dr. Alexandra Warden. And, as we go around the table, I'll ask her not just to be last, but a wonderful young lady that we've invited to be part of our discussion. And together with Mr. Jones, maybe a quick intro just for our listeners. I know for many of our listeners, you're familiar, I don't want to say fixtures, so faces. But Ms. Belafonte, maybe of you as well, when after Dr. Warden sets the stage, get you to just do a brief bio, just a quick intro. But Dr. Warden, thanks for not only on a very, very diligent, dedicated, and determined effort every month facilitating our discussion, but for getting us to a point where the discussion of mental health in itself is a growing sort of public discussion. I believe right now the Honorable Minister for Health is within the Legislative Assembly. He's talking, that's the IPS's sort of role on the mental health orders that they can use to talk about emergency orders. But we're talking about it more and more. We're getting to see the importance that it is all-encompassing. And I would like to believe that these public discussions help to at least bring the public to that point where we need to talk about it. So good afternoon, welcome, and thanks for joining us.
And thank you very much, and thank you to yourself and to Radio Cayman for always having us on. I definitely agree. It's definitely something we need to talk about more. When we don't understand things, we fear them, we judge them, we distance ourselves from them. So it's important to realize that mental health is a part of our overall health. All of us have it. We all deal with, not only the difficult side, we talk about the anxiety, the depressive symptoms, the good parts as well, the joy, the happiness, the love, feelings of fulfillment and connection with others. All of this is a part of our mental health. And so it's important to continue to talk about it and to educate ourselves on what it is and how we can, things that we can do as well to continue to improve our health. Because a lot of times we know the physical side, but the emotional and the mental health side as well, there's a lot that we can do in our daily lives.
All right. And so as we invite people to be a part of the discussion, perhaps Jason, maybe a quick intro, and maybe you can do this voice. I'm Jason Jones, but you can try.
Good afternoon. I'm so thankful to be at this show again, this monthly show. So impressed that you guys are willing to dedicate over an hour every month to mental health matters. And I'm very thankful to be here and to see Dr. Bodden and meet one of her students. It is, I'm actually working at On-Course Cayman now with Dr. Bodden, so I've made the leap over from other places. A big part of it was being on here radio with her and having an interest in the way she thinks and does things. So, and I'm really glad to be talking about spirituality and mental health today, because it is definitely, I'm a big proponent of the different dimensions of ourself, the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual selves, and how they're all interconnected and intertwined. And as we grow in one areas, they feed the other areas and they can help each other. And there's certainly some positives that can be drawn out of a person's spirituality and their connections. And there's also possibly some myths that are out there in regards to our spirituality and mental health.
Indeed. And thanks, Mr. Day, for joining us. I think oftentimes we fail to heed the scriptures. The youth shall be the ones that lead us, guys. Let not your age, sort of be that thing that precludes people from looking at you, But as I've said, and I sense very, very proud of you. Your wisdom sort of, belies your age. I mean, it's amazing the ethic, the ethos that you have, and the presence that you bring. So thanks for accepting the invite, spending your lunch hour with us, as opposed to doing what I would do on my lunch hour.
Thank you, Mr. Sterling, for having me. And, it makes me very happy to know that I left an impact on you. And the last time I was on your show was like 3 years ago. So that means something big to me. And it's not even just leaving an impact on a person, but, a talk show host. So,
and West Bay, that too.
Yeah, West Bay, So things don't come easy to them. So that means that's something very big to me, Mental health is something I hold very close to my heart. Like, I don't take that lightly at all. So.
And that's the thing, Dr. Bodden, when we look at it, in today's discussion, I guess, because of not trying to say this in a jovial, light-hearted way at all, but sometimes a little spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. So hopefully people see it. But this has been a challenging year. I mean, this year is the longest century I've ever experienced. It's been difficult, right, in every facet. Then we're going into Christmas, and my reference to the country song, if you listen to it, you realize what the fellow was saying. He's going to have it hard. There's no job, there's no money, he can't get the gifts. It's cold where he's at. Maybe he'll find a warmer spot come January. We understand. Let's make it over this hump and let's see where we can. But we won't get there unless we do it together. We won't get there unless we have a healthy respect for each other. And the notion of mental health, I'd be guided by not just your expertise and experience and professionalism, but sometimes we always have this disclaimer or this handle before something that sort of undervalues it. Why can't we talk about health and not have categorized, your health? Maybe you need to go to the sports medicine because you had an injury while playing a sport. That's different than going to the cardiologist, the neurosurgeon and the like. But you're also looking after your physical health. You talk to your financial advisor. But for some reason we pigeonhole mental health like it's this bad thing. Yet, two guys having a cup of coffee or, if they're lucky enough, a good glass of coconut water, and they're fellowshipping, they're helping each other. Just like the two individuals, one of whom is a licensed, psychologist, talking to the other who's saying, I'm really having some issues, trying to balance work and life and what have you. But we put labels and handles and we pigeonhole and we malign.
Yeah, no, and I think mental health is often equated with mental illness, which is a leap that physical health made a long time ago. When we talk about health, you think of running and eating salads and apples. Whereas you talk about mental health, you think of mental illness.
Yeah.
And I think, the examples you gave are great examples of little things we can do each day, spending time with friends, doing things we enjoy, connecting with others, giving back in the community, are all things that we do for our mental health. It's not just not being ill, but it's actually living a fulfilling and productive life. Okay. That's really what we're looking for.
And spirituality, then, if I could then ask, all right? There are those of us, I'll be careful how I say this because some people misunderstand, but religiously, right? Others, they would say, well, that's how they're conditioned. Others would say, their programming and whatever. But they get up and they do their prayers and their meditation. But if they don't do that,
Yeah. Well, and so that was actually a distinction I wanted to start with, was the difference between spirituality and religion.
Yeah.
It's a distinction that's been made in the U.S. And so where I did a lot of my training, that was a big divide that we had, was that religion tends to be the organized form, like going to church, the different Christianity, the different beliefs that come. So it tends to be like a set of beliefs, set of practices, and certain communities that come with it. So there's a lot of good things that come from religion, but there's also a lot of things that people maybe choose to do something different, because they don't agree with it, it doesn't align with them. So religion is the more structured, organized part, the human influence
The do's
part.
and don'ts, huh?
Exactly. And then the spirituality is going to be your connection with the spirit or the universe. And so spirituality is a much more open concept, one that a lot of people can relate to. And so even if you don't identify with a religion, you can still be spiritual. I've got a friend that says that her church is in nature, and so that's where she goes to connect with God, or her spirit is in her garden. So there's different ways of doing it, and a lot of the practices we've talked about throughout the year, meditation, prayer, even fellowship, those kinds of things can have a spiritual base to it, but aren't necessarily religion or identify within a formal religious theory.
How did a pastor once, and as learned, experienced, charismatic, as wonderful he says, his greatest time of fellowship, the greatest time that he felt closest, to God, was near the water, salt water in particular. But even if it was a lake or just a fountain, for some reason that allowed him to feel that connection. And if it was a live body of water, that made him feel so in nature. But we can see the presence of God as we know it, some kind of the higher power.
Yeah.
Mr. If I may then ask you, when we look at our health and well-being and mental health, not so much mental illness, but is it that we as society, and guide me if my question is not free and proper or maybe too much, as parents, as adults, but parents and teachers, that we don't see our young people, those under 50, for instance, young people, okay? We don't see the challenges, the pressures they have, the expectations that we have of them, but they also have of themselves. The increasing costs, their desire for education and to become independent and all these things, and then that pressure, stress that puts on them. Are we dismissive of it? Because when we were young, we walked in the snow barefoot backwards both ways to and from work. Where's that?
Or they used to walk to school barefoot. That's a good question, and I would probably say not most adults would dismiss it. But some would say, what do you have to be stressed about? You have a roof over your head, you have clothes on your back, you have food on your table. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. No, that's the mic we got from Rudy last night. He was eating this guy. He's like, Paul, you back to your family.
Sorry, yeah. So they would say, you have food on the table, you have clothes on your back. What do you have to be stressed about? When I was your age, I was going to school and working, and I had to babysit my 4 baby sisters, whatever. Everyone has a stress level. Just because yours could be having a bad day at work, that doesn't mean that mine will be the same thing.
Right,
Get what I'm saying? Everyone has a different breaking point, and I feel like people need to realize that. Just because we're children or teenagers or we're 30 doesn't mean we don't have stress. That doesn't mean we don't go through things. That doesn't mean anything less than what you think of yourself. We all have problems, and I think it's important that people actually sit there and they feel what they feel and try to find a way to address that, because suppressing doesn't do anything for anyone.
Yeah. We tend to internalize and just we keep things, and we probably say, oh well, they men or they, that type personality, whatever, they keep it to themselves. But you can see the manifestations in many ways, and perhaps not so much as immediate as we would like in order to get it addressed. It may happen way down the road in some other physical outcome. So what do we do? How do we get to a point where maybe after the break then, Dr. Bond, you kick us off and lead us to a point where we start to appreciate, it is Christmas. I genuinely love Christmas. I love the eating, the cooking, the fellowship. I love everything about it. I wish I could sing, because I try to sing Christmas carols all year round, right? Because of how it makes me feel. But maybe...
All year round?
All year. I sing Christmas carols all year round. Not good, not
I
well.
watch the Christmas movies too, so I can't judge.
It's just something about Christmas, right? I mean, I watch bitter enemies almost patch up things. Look at political rivalries. Look at some business competitors. They put things on pause, maybe for 4 hours, maybe, right? Maybe for 4 days. But we tend to. And there's a celebration, there's a fellowship. It helps that in the Cayman context, as I recall it, it may not have been, but that's how I recall it. You know, there was a big celebration. A lot of the men try to make it home for Christmas. We go back to our historical record when the Flagler Railroad was being built in Key West. The foreman of the said he knows, and he described us in a certain way. These guys are going to work, all through the sandflies, sun up to sundown. But you can look for them to leave, jump in the catboats just a couple days before Christmas and don't wait for them till after New Year. And they sailed over from there back to here. And then after the celebration, they went back. So Christmas was and is an important time. But then it brings with it its own trials and struggles and tribulations and all the other things that come with the joy and the sadness. So after the break, does that mean any more this year because it's Christmas? Because of Christmas in 2020? All right, let's pause and take a break. When we come back, if you dial the number and Susan answers, that means that you dial the right number unless you order in Turtle Meat. But either way, you get through. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Christmas may be a little different this year, but it will taste as jolly good as ever with KFC. Whether it's an office party, holiday fete, or family gathering, enjoy KFC's delicious, fresh, hand-breaded chicken. The KFC Festive Feast includes 10 pieces of original recipe or spicy chicken, creamy mashed potatoes, tasty coleslaw, biscuits, and a 2-liter Pepsi. KFC's holiday catering menu includes buckets of hot wings, sweet chili wings, or chicken tenders. KFC, it's good.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts. Brand Source Service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand Source Service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000.
Now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Everywhere.
Can you hear me now? Everywhere. Everywhere.
Yes, right from your Android or iPhone. Download the Radio Cayman app now on your Android or iOS phone.
The Radio Cayman app
is where you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere you go.
Everywhere we go, we go. Everywhere we go, we go.
Find it in the Google Store, the Apple Store, or use the link at www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Yes, now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. It is our monthly Mental Health Matters. This month's topic, spirituality and mental health. Dr. Alexandra Borden, together with her colleague Jason Jones, and a budding psychologist and UCCI student, and just a remarkable lady, Mr. Belafonte, joins us. And when I look at where we are in this particular sort of time, the notion that more and more of us are finding the importance of talking to someone that we know is competent, that we can hold in confidence, and with whom we can find a resource. So it may be a referral. Here's a listening ear, but you need to go see Dr. Borden for better insight, for trained experience sort of perspective. With that though, Jason, perhaps start with you first with reference to our to other guests. Is it that it's easier for some of us to maybe make that first sort of approach, to recognize that there is something, for want of a better term, sort of other sorts within us, just not feeling this thing, or is that, well, it usually takes someone else to see it in you before you see it in yourself?
I think you're going to get a mixed bag of different experiences for people there. Some people are naturally inclined to seek help and talk to others, and they want that and need it, and maybe they've had some success with it before, so they're very open to it. Other people might have tried it before and didn't make a connection, or felt they got the wrong advice or connection, and they're resistant to it now. Sometimes people who haven't had that experience at all just don't know what it is, and maybe there's a mentality that you don't talk about your business with strangers and stuff. I've heard that a lot since coming here on the island, even with youngsters and children and stuff, that what happens in the house stays in the house, and you don't talk about your business.
Okay.
Other cultures, though, like even, for example, I've talked to a fair amount of people from the UK that their mentality is, stiff upper lip. You just suck it up and, get through it. And, it's a sign of weakness or something. But in fact, I always start with my clients and say, have you had counseling before? Or have you had an experience? What was good? What was bad about it? Mm-hmm. Do you have other people in your life that you talk to? And what's good or bad out of that experience, Mm-hmm. And I actually, try to help guide them to thinking that it's actually a sign of strength to seek out help.
Right.
And there's a reason why talk therapy is successful. So I always kind of visualize it as we can carry half the burden with a person.
Give me a thought. I think the next hour between 1:30 and 2:30 is open line, so Susan, I could charge. You can listen to people. It's just a thought. Say laughter is good medicine. But Dr. Boyden, picked up on Jason's points. Two things jumped out at me. I wrote the words crutch and then confidentiality. So some will see religion or spirituality as a crutch. Others, they see this thing as, well, what is a crutch? It props you up. Your breadfruit tree is loading this year with stuff, and you don't want them all too long, so you cut a crutch stick and you keep your banana suckers in place so that you can get the body of that plantation, right? But yet we have a negative connotation of it. And then when we talk, as Jason said, whether it's a stiff upper lip, you buck the system, you just suck it up, or you keep it in. There needs to be a level of confidence and confidential, not keeping things that are that are harmful or unhealthy, but
no, I agree, and that's where, like this talk show, you can see therapists, they're normal people, aspiring therapists. We have people that want to be therapists here too. That we're normal people, and it's you can connect to us, you can relate to us, and I think that understanding therapy and how it works is really important, because I grew up here too, and I know that that's not something we normally do in Cayman. The U.S. has already crossed over. California, New York, you're the odd person if you don't have a therapist. So culturally, it's something that's different for Cayman. And the confidentiality is huge, which is why it's important. If you are going to see someone for therapy, it's important to know that they're registered and licensed, and they'll be regulated by CPAM on island, and likely somewhere else as well. Because we have a code of ethics we have to follow. So that way you know that you're getting good quality support. And and finding the right connection's important too. So even if you don't connect with the first therapist, the personality isn't right, or the fit isn't right, or the theory that their approach maybe is a bit different. Like, I have a lot of homework, and some people don't like that, but it's very common with CBT, the kind of therapy that I do, which is the leading one in America right now. So sometimes it's not a right fit, so you try someone else. And all of us that I've worked with on island agree with that. So if it's not working with me, I'll help you find someone else. Likewise, if you're with someone else, they think that I might be a better fit. They'll make a recommendation for me. But I think that it's important to these kinds of shows. UCCI has taken on the psychology program to get more information out there. But I think that religion's important too. Psychology for a long time didn't talk about religion, right? We stayed away from it, or it was a part of the problem. And so psychology has made a move back towards including spirituality within mental health as well. And I think working in Cayman, that's really important, because religion's such a big part of our culture, right? With Christianity predominating, but now between our 126 nations that are represented here, there's a lot of other religions as well. And realizing that religion and spirituality is different for each person too. So I think it's important for any therapist who's working with people to understand that and appreciate that. And when I work with people, I want to know what it's like for them and how it works for them. So you might be Christian. You know, I personally identify as Christian as well, but your beliefs might be different than mine. So I want to hear what it's like for you and how that's going to be a part of it. So psychology now will include it as a part of what's going on. And it might be reconnecting with church. It might be that we don't go to church, we try a different church. Or we find some other way of being able to connect with the Spirit. So, or sometimes it's not a part of my therapy at all. Right. So it really depends on the person. But I think culturally it's important to understand that. I will say, when I worked in the States, I was always open to talking about religion, but it's something you don't talk about in the U.S., right? Because that's their culture, is you don't talk about religion. But coming home, I actually had a lot more pushback about religion than I ever did in the States. And so it's important, I think, as a therapist to understand that part. And, you know, and if you do have mixed feelings about church or what happens, or I know a lot of us were made to go to Sunday school growing up, and some of us had missed experiences there, or have had difficult experiences in church as an adult. And so figuring out what it means for you personally is important, and not just going with what was taught to you. So I think in that way, the spiritual and the religious side can be a really important part of your mental health. And sometimes it's not going to play as big a role. It depends on you. That was a lot of information.
No,
but I think it's important to see the person and for everyone to figure out what it means for them.
Perfect. Janae, if you want to jump in at any point, let us know. But your thoughts.
I just want to go back to what Mr. Jones said in regards to having a strong upper lip and just staying strong and suppressing everything. I feel like for males, that's kind of what they do. They suppress and they suppress and they suppress. And I want to say that there's nothing wrong with speaking about your problems. Like, it will probably make you feel better by going into someone that understands and someone that will listen to you rather than suppress. Because to me, suppressing does nothing. Yeah. And you are right. You know, when it came on, we kind of, mental health, whatever. It's nothing big. Bad day, not a bad life. What do you do if it's a bad life? What are you supposed to do? What if it goes from weeks to months, from months to years? Like, where do you go from here? Like, I really want to know. Like, you know, these are things that people are supposed to think about. You can't just dismiss someone because they're having a bad day. Or they say, hey, Mom, I'm sad, or hey, Dad, I'm sad. You don't say, what do you have to be sad about? That does nothing. That makes them sadder. And then that makes them feel like, okay, I can't even talk to my mom or my dad about how I feel. And they go on the road and they tell Tom, John, whoever else they have to tell, and that doesn't do anything for them. You know, so it's... Mental health is a very, you know... It's not an easy topic to talk about, and if you need help, I would say you're strong enough for realizing that you need help, and you should definitely go get the help.
Is that then the challenge then? Because as I listen to Janae sharing, it almost comes back to what I was hoping we were getting away from, the stigma. So can you imagine someone, a wife or mother or a public official or a young person, it doesn't matter, and there's a small community and that person is seeing a psychologist, that person is taking some medication, but that helps them. They're productive, they're happy, they're healthy. We wouldn't have an issue if that was a medicine, you know, as part of their other therapy following some...
for diabetes or blood pressure.
Yeah, right? But boy, so how do we get to that place where, like you said, California, New York, okay, they're unusual, but even the pets have therapists. So that...
True.
Right? And how many of us have, guide me, but I'll say this way, you know, therapy, we go to the bar, we sit on the bar stool, and we're in a therapy session with somebody, right? Or after church.
That's true, yeah. At the barber shop, you know, you talk to your barber.
I mean, you ever sit and listen? I mean, listen, good advice, man. Helpful, maybe. I don't know. So what is it going to take then for us to appreciate that this is about making us better, stronger, healthier?
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it is, and mental health has grown a lot in Cayman. Pretty much all of us tend to be busy all the time. I think it's important to realize people are already doing it here. We may not talk about it as much, right? So if 1 in 4 people experiences a diagnosable mental illness, most of us can relate to anxiety, depression anyway. That's 15,000 people on island with a mental illness.
Or 25,000, depending.
right? And so, so it's important to realize that it's already going on. If it's not us, friends around us are already dealing with it, and everyone, there's a lot of people already getting help. There's nothing wrong with that. And trying to do some of the making that leap with the conceptualization to, that it is just a part of your health, and there are people who still, come to our office and, don't want anyone to see them there. And there's always going to be that part. Unfortunately, there's the shame tied to it. But hopefully as people begin to realize that it is a common thing, it's a helpful thing. And just because you see a therapist is not that something is wrong with you or something is wrong. And sometimes it's just for support. Yeah. I think anyone could benefit from having, an objective third party to let go of things and talk things through and get another perspective and some support in developing new coping skills.
But we do that. Guide me again. Thinking of maybe it's the company's policy or even the government's policy. You're going to get new computers or you're going to build something. We want 2 quotes or 3 quotes, right? You're the regular, going to the doctor, you get a second opinion. So getting the therapist, the psychologist, the other person as an objective, independent third party to weigh in on this thing will help you in the day in how to navigate and to really know what's going on.
The difference between us and your friend at the bar is that we don't have a stake in the matter. If I'm your friend, I should not be seeing you for therapy, so... Yeah.
And you're cheaper too.
For everyone. Yeah. What?
The professional...
What, then the bar tab?
Yeah.
Depends on who you're drinking with. But I'd say, we don't have a stake in it. When I'm not friends with you, you can say whatever you want about them to me, and it's not going anywhere. The confidentiality part is the big part that I think was missing. And that's what hurts my heart is I think, and that's why the CPAM registration is so important, because I think there was a lot of people offering therapy and counseling in Cayman before that weren't regulated for whatever reason. And so they may not have had the ethics code where I don't even acknowledge my clients. If I see them out in public, that they know me as their private business. I'm not, and I offended a lot of people when I got home because in America, they know. Your therapist is not going to talk to you. In Cayman, they didn't. And so I start every one of my sessions now as I meet people, your information goes nowhere unless you're going to, unless you have plans of killing yourself or someone else, or there's concerns about possible child abuse or neglect. Those are the only reasons I would break confidentiality. That I even know you is your private business, and I won't acknowledge you unless you talk to me first. And so that's going to be where it's different. You can come in, you can say anything. We're going to talk things through. I'm not going to run and tell your boss. I'm not going to tell Aunt Sally what you did. It's for you.
And I think that's where we're getting. Hopefully with this now, we do have the short break to take, but when we come back, this month's discussion, spirituality and mental health, and some of us can find much help in it, and hopefully, they'll appreciate that more than ever. This is where we need to sort of dig in and get the support. All right, I think by now the check has cleared and the phone bills are paid. Flo has a toll-free line, 1-800-534-8255. If you want to call and share a thought, ask a question, well, during the break, and we'll answer it. Maybe, I don't know. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
CG Britke would like to wish our clients, their families, our staff, and our communities a happy holiday. In this time of celebration, let us remember what this past year has taught us. That we can be in different rooms, different homes, or on different islands, yet never feel apart. Because we are here for each other and stronger together. We look forward to the new year, to serving your insurance needs, and always putting people first. Happy holidays from our CG Britke family to yours.
Don't miss Fat Chance on Radio Cayman every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. starting November 18th until December 23rd, with a repeat of each week's episode airing every Saturday at 6:45 p.m. beginning on November 21st and ending on December 26th. Fat Chance. Fat Chance is a comedy everyone can relate to. Henpeck Dexter is back with his wife Corinne and his mother-in-law who is living with the couple. The universal theme is be careful what you wish for, as you just may get it.
We give you honor and praise, adoration and glory.
Radio Cayman.
Praise time.
Praise him, praise him. Come and let's praise the Lord. Come and let's praise the Lord. Praise him in the morning and in the evening. Oh,
Praise Time in the morning.
Praise Him. Weekdays 6 to 6:30 a.m.
Radio Cayman, waking you up.
Rock my soul in the blues of my faith in your hand. Rock my soul in the blues of my faith in your hand.
Praise Time.
I know He cares. He'll always be there.
Praise Him. Praise Him. Praise Him.
Praise Time.
Set your clock for 6 a.m. or you will miss it.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thanks for joining us. It is our monthly Mental Health Matters program, and this month's topic, spirituality and mental health. Dr. Alexandra Wood, Mr. Jason Jones, and Janae Belafonte sits with us. And I'm glad to see the perspective and I guess the consensus that talking to a therapist, a counselor, psychiatrist, psychologist is actually absolutely essential for your overall health and well-being, for your happiness, for your quality of life. But we'll get there, right, Dr. Wood?
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, now I was just going to say there's a lot of services available. I was just going to tack that on from before, is that when you're talking about like how companies will take it into their budget, a lot of companies in Cayman actually do. And so a lot already have setups for EAPs, either with Employee Assistance Program, the organization here, or with other local organizations. So if you are dealing with stress or difficulties at work, it's worth talking to your HR and seeing if they already have something set up where you can go and get therapy on their bill. They're willing to pay for so many sessions to support their workers and their employees, because a lot of companies on island are seeing the benefits of supporting mental health. So I'd say ask around, and if they don't, the Counseling Center, we have free services available in Cayman.
Yeah, that's important. No, Jason, it is, during the break, we were chatting something. Pick us up on this segment. I mean, the notion. Well, go ahead. Sure. I'll let you know which one you want to tackle first.
Well, I'd just like to kind of add on to what Dr. Bodden had said earlier, like the difference between maybe talking to a friend or a supportive person or your barber or bartender versus coming to help with a counselor or psychologist. I always like to say, it is a strength to have good people in your life that you can talk to. It's much better than being alone and not feeling like you have no one to talk to. However, I always kind of like to tell a client that they're the expert on them. They've lived their entire lives in their body, in their minds. But I'm trained to be an expert kind of on human thought, behavior, emotion. And a lot of times I can reflect back or make increase awareness with a person on how maybe thoughts and feelings are driving certain behaviors, or how certain behaviors are driving certain thoughts and feelings. So I might be able to raise some awareness for a person so that they understand themselves better. Whereas, your friend or bartender or barber may offer some good supportive advice. But sometimes advice isn't always the most helpful form of help. So I always look at it as for me, walking a journey with a client, understanding what it's like to be in their shoes, and then helping them cope with life, helping them face their own challenges. Sometimes there's some skill building, sometimes just connecting some dots. Now, it's interesting as we compare this to pastors and people that are involved with church and stuff. And I think that a pastor or people in the church can offer some very good supports and some help there as well. And a lot of people that are involved in their church will turn to a pastor for counseling or marriage counseling or pre-marriage counseling or individual counseling. So there are some certain strengths there as well. And I want to bring it back to spirituality and religion, because I agree with Dr. Bodden in that I will often ask a person where they sit with that and listen to their experience and their beliefs. And hopefully if that is a strength for them, a source of strength, will help them tap into that. But also if that it's been a source of pain for them or suffering or distancing themselves further from spirituality or people, then working with them to try to overcome those barriers that were put up.
Mr. Lee, from that perspective, though, I mean, we look at people who, for want of a better way, we discriminate against people for all sorts of nonsense sometimes, how they look, they're from West Bay or whatever it is, we make fun, we discriminate. But I can imagine just like the person who may have had some illness, we look at it. But mental health, we think because they're seeing, a counselor, a therapist, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or taking medication, that somehow something's wrong with them.
Yeah. For as long as I can remember, I've always heard people say that, like if you're seeing a therapist, you're crazy. If you take medication, you're crazy. Something's wrong with you. If you have depression, something's wrong with you. And to me, that's nothing is wrong with you. Like if you're sad, you're sad. If you need to seek help, you seek help. If you need medication to feel better, you do what it takes to feel better. Like it's your body. No one else is going to be in your body. It's your body. Mm-hmm. Like you need to take care of yourself, because if you don't do it, who's going to do it for you?
But then, as Dr. Borden was sharing, I mean, whether it's the medication for diabetes or blood pressure, or
there's no difference in any of those things.
It's the same thing,
It's
right?
going to make you better, so there's really no difference,
And if you don't take the medicines for those things, you can see the negative consequences. Yeah. So whatever the prescribed medication is, or the therapy, or whatever, but what is it then that, let's just speak to the Cayman context, that somehow we look at it and stigmatize more and more because, that person is whatever, and we label.
There's still a lot of misunderstanding of mental illness in Cayman. A lot of times when you think about mental illness, you think of certain examples in the community of people who suffer from severe mental illness. There is going to be a level of that. Things like schizophrenia are going to affect about 1 in 100. That's still a significant amount of our population.
1 in 100.
Right, and that's schizophrenia. Bipolar 1, the more severe one, is going to be about 1% as well, but bipolar 1 and 2 is going to be 3 to 4%.
Wow.
And so there's a significant part of the community that will experience severe mental illness, all of which is often able to be managed with medications and psychosocial support, which is where the long-term mental health facilities can be super important. But that's what comes to mind, right, is those examples, and that's scary, and we don't want to be associated with that. With mental illness is even something like stigma by association, where if it's your friend or family member that's suffering, then people tend to judge you as well.
Yeah.
And it's important to understand, they talk about it just being a chemical imbalance. There's a lot that goes into it, and that's a great oversimplification. But the more severe ones actually are, a lot of it's genetic and biological, which is where the medications are really important for things like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. But the things like anxiety, depression, most of us can relate to. Most of us have experienced at some stage. And so it's important to understand that and to realize that. And to get other examples out there. There's a lot of celebrities have been doing a lot of talks about their time with anxiety and depression, like Michael Phelps, I think Demi Lovato. There's a lot that are talking about their journeys and what it's been like for them. So, and that having the courage to ask for help often brings greater things afterwards.
Maybe I want to come back to that, but Jason?
Yeah, we talk about taking medication. I've been on my own journey with how I look at medication as a treatment for the people that I work with, even myself, whether to go down that route or not. And I think it's a journey that everyone has to take and decide for themselves. But I've talked to so many families, and especially youths, that have it in their mind that if they take medication, they're going to become a drug addict. And I kind of like, it shocks me a bit because I see the opposite happening. I see when somebody tries to avoid taking medication at all costs, they're actually more at risk to go down alcohol and drug paths to self-medicate. So it's just a really interesting and kind of a bizarre belief that I've been hearing a lot about. And I guess I can understand because maybe they know somebody that went down a route and then they went to something else, and now they're on the streets and stuff. But it's an interesting perspective.
And I appreciate, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm hope that for some reason us as pastors and parents and politicians and the other principals in our society would start to look again in the Cayman context. And if we've been here, say 40 years and plus, we must somehow see that maybe when we were growing up, there was nobody or there was one person. And then 40 years later, 50 years later, there's 5 people or 500 people. So something is happening in our society where more and more people are, on the street, and we're labeling them homeless, they're drug addicts, they're whatever. And is it more to it now? And are we as a society responsive and respectful enough to reach out to them and say, okay, it isn't that families probably aren't doing it, but there's an absence of facilities and support and love and kindness. Dr. Warden?
Yeah, no, that's a big judgment that a lot of people make, and that's often not the case. A lot of times the families are there and trying.
Yeah.
But the mental illness, and a lot of times it is tied up with drug use as well, from what they term self-medicating, right? Where the medications aren't working, or they don't have them, or they've been misdiagnosed, and they do turn to, they may turn to drugs to try to deal with what's going on. And so, it's important not to judge them and to try to understand and have empathy. Because a lot of times they're dealing with things that we've never dealt with and hopefully never will have to. Yeah. And I think to see them as a person, like even in psychology, we no longer call someone with schizophrenia schizophrenic. They're a person that has schizophrenia, just like a person with diabetes, right? So we've stepped away from that to see the illness as what it is, and not see the person or judge the person for that they are more than their diagnosis.
If I could ask after the break, maybe we would talk about our young people in particular, and especially in this context with all that is happening now. I'll be guided by everyone. I have a personal perspective relative to what has transpired in the last months, where we haven't been interacting as much. Not going to get into whether good, bad, or indifferent, but the very fact that we've been physically distant. I almost refuse to say socially distant, because I think we're social beings. But in that inability and the restrictions to physically interact could have affected our health and well-being. I can invite you for a coffee. We can't sit and knock a game of dominoes. We can't whichever. There was a time when you couldn't play tennis. Now, I'm not a great tennis player, but the little bit I know about it, you're at one end of the court, I'm at the other end, and that's more than 6 feet. I mean, just thinking. But what has that caused for our mental health, and in particular our young people, our preschoolers, our adolescents, our returning college grads, those working and studying? Is it that we're not aware of it? Maybe we can somewhat talk about that in terms of what this year would be like, the potential destructive behavior. All right, when we come back, more talk today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm April Cummings. Chief Medical Officer Dr. John Lee reports 422 COVID-19 tests carried out since our report on Friday. One is positive for COVID-19. The individual is an asymptomatic traveler whose positive test results came as part of the routine screening program. They will remain in isolation until considered recovered. Right now, there are just over 1,100 people in isolation, either at a government facility or in their homes, as required by the Medical Officer of Health. In international headlines, the United Kingdom prepares for what it's calling V-Day, when it will administer its first COVID-19 vaccines. Some 800,000 doses will go to people over the age of 80 who are either in the hospital or who already have outpatient appointments scheduled. Nursing home workers will also be vaccinated. Only those who have been contacted by the NHS to arrange an appointment will be getting the vaccine. At least one person has died and 200 others hospitalized due to an unidentified illness in the southern Indian state of Andhra Pradesh, report said today. The illness was detected Saturday evening in Eluru, an ancient city famous for its hand-woven products. Since then, patients have experienced symptoms ranging from nausea and anxiety to loss of consciousness. This according to doctors in the region. The Press Trust of Indian News Agency reports a 45-year-old man hospitalized with symptoms similar to epilepsy and nausea died Sunday evening. Officials are trying to determine the cause of the illness. U.S. President Donald Trump says his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, has tested positive for COVID-19, making him the latest in Trump's inner circle to contract the disease that is now surging across the U.S. A person familiar with the matter who was not authorized to speak publicly said the 76-year-old former mayor was exhibiting some symptoms and admitted Sunday to Georgetown University Medical Center in Washington. Those are your headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. I'm April Cummings.
For the latest in news and information, Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Your voice, your choice, your radio.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And thanks very, very much for allowing us to be able to have a discussion on mental health matters. And as the name suggests, I like to play on words because it does matter. And we're talking about mental health matters. So see what Dr. Bodden did there?
I'm slick like that.
She's slick like that. That'll be best being her. That is good. Dr. Alexandria Bodden, Jason Jones, and Janae Belafonte, thank each of you for joining us from the perspective of getting us. And as we were talking about it, I wonder if I just might ask for guidance. We're going to enter the season of giving and Thanksgiving gift exchange, food and fellowship and fun, hopefully in a responsible way. For those who partake of libation, that they'll be smart about it and recognize it. And those who are around them would be cautious and cognizant and conscious of what's happening. But I can think of the family who is making the cassava, they're going to prepare the Christmas beef and all the traditions that go with it. So they're in the kitchen, they're doing this thing. Good time for interaction exchange, for, the grandmother to ask the little grandson a question or two. Is that what we should do if we are a family member who has a concern about something, career choices? We saw that maybe something was bugging them, and then say, boy, you should go give Dr. Bodden a call and have a chat. I mean, is that what we should do, or we should just, dig our heads in the sand and pretend all is well?
I would say it's good to ask if you're prepared to help.
Okay.
That's the catch, right? Is that if you're going to be judgmental or judge them, I think Janae gave some great examples of, you have nothing to be sad about. What are you crying about? You're not actually sad. Get over it.
Yeah.
I think Jason talks about that as well. If you're willing to help, it's good to ask and just check in with the person,
right.
And especially if you have an idea of where resources are. And if you're not sure, give us a call. Myself, Jason, our office manager, Miss Angie, any of us, Dr. Liesel, all of us are happy to talk about what's available. I think Janae's got some ideas of some good resources too. So,
I know of the Family Resource Center, the Counseling Center, and the Alex Panton Foundation. I do follow them on Instagram, and they've been doing some great things. I think they have groups as well, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure of the ages.
I'll do that part after.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
And I think those are the only ones that come to mind at the moment. But like Dr. Bodden said, only ask if you're prepared to help, because it's not very easy to ask someone, are you okay? And they say no.
Okay. Could I impose on you and again guide me? Because I think sometimes...
No, you can't.
Okay. See, this young lady...
Ask consent, though. That was good practice.
No, I'm joking. You can go.
No, this young lady is so remarkable. I mean, and this is what I see in our young people. So I wanted to ask... sometimes as parents or even older siblings, grandparents may be a little bit different. They have this, and I guess if you listen to them, they say, they made mistakes with their first set, so let's see if they can get it right with the second set. But so you're a family member. Friends are probably different. So you're a family member. The pick the scenario is, you're in the kitchen and you're cooking, you're getting ready to eat, and you want to ask. So two things. In the ask, how do you go about it? And in the reception, so the young person now is going to be kind of uncomfortable. Yeah, I know what she's trying to get up my beeswax or into my Cheerios or whatever the phrase is people use. How do you make that person feel comfortable, and how is that? Do you think that young person is going to receive this person, maybe being intrusive, getting up in their business?
I think it just depends on the person that you're dealing with. Like, for example, I can speak on myself. My dad always, every single day, he's like, are you okay? And I answer honestly. Even if I'm not okay and I say, yes, I'm okay, he'll know I'm not okay. But that's just the relationship, and that's just me as a person. So I think it depends on who you're dealing with. Sometimes you might get that answer, why are you asking me? Why you want to be in my business for? That's just who you're dealing with again. You might get a different answer if you ask someone else. They'll say, no, I'm not okay, I had a bad day, or yes, I'm okay, I had a good day. It just depends on who you're really dealing with.
Okay. And then Dr. Bodden, to you then, because I want us to be very, very serious. As you said, do not ask unless you genuinely want to listen and you're prepared to help. And you may, well, for me anyway, when something is not right with that person that you care about.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and even if you don't know where to go for help, just checking in with them is okay. If it's genuine, people will know. And just having, so even if you are not sure what's available, if you know the person is needing support, it's fair to ask them what you can do to help. It might just be a hug. It might be, spending some time. It might be connecting them with professional support. But there's a lot of help available. Janae mentioned the Counseling Center and Family Resource Center, both great government services, all free. Counseling Center is available at 949-8789. Alex Panton Foundation actually has a support group for young adults. So it's set up for dealing with anxiety, depression, but even just managing stress. And so that's running on the weekends. That was at UCCI. It's moving to the Georgetown Town Hall. You can check out their Facebook for more information about that. That's all available free as well. So there's a lot of support available on island. Young people can always connect with their school counselor as well. That's often an easy first step, especially if mom and dad are part of the stress, or if you're not sure how to talk about it with mom and dad, they can be a good first step. Counselors, doctors, pediatricians, and pastors. There's no wrong way to start. Okay. So even if you have concerns about your child, it might be, or about yourself, check in with their pediatrician, check in with your doctor, and they can often, them knowing you can help you find the right person as well. Sometimes you get a more personal reference that way.
But I think too, when I listen to you and realizing the resource, looking at the growing numbers of professionals within the mental health sort of field, and seeing the increase in population, seeing the increased stressors in our population, whether it's the cost of living, job security, or whether it's saving for retirement, getting a down payment for the new home.
And if I may, the time of year, right? So we chose December for the talk on spirituality and religion because a lot of that comes up now. Obviously, there's a lot of religious ceremonies and practices that come up now. And while many of us do enjoy Christmas, some of us have lost someone, and it's going to be different this year. Yeah. There's going to be an empty chair. There's going to be someone missing. And so it's important to realize that and appreciate and respect that. Everyone's got their own journeys. And so now, if you do have, especially if you have a history of difficulties with anxiety, depression, that may come up more. Any kind of difficulties you've had in the past might be exacerbated now. And it's important to know that that's a normal thing. It happens. You're human, and you're missing someone. And so grief often comes with the holidays. The holidays are often a very hard time for a lot of people I work with, and a lot of friends and family. And it's important to understand that and respect that. And it might be making new traditions, might be doing something to remember the person you've lost. You do something to commemorate them. So, I think it's important to acknowledge that too.
If I may,
and those things make us, those things may make us question God, right? When there are losses, and these bring up a lot of those feelings. Or if we did have difficult experiences with church in the past, having it all come back up may bring it back up for us. And so I think it's really important to have compassion for ourselves going through this. The pandemic, the world shut down. A virus really did take over the world, just like in the zombie movies. And there's all these things that can bring up fears and make us question our beliefs. And so all of that is to be expected now.
Thanks for that, because I was going to ask, this year, it's, for us, for many of us, we never heard the word quarantine before. Lockdown was probably in a movie in relation to a prison. Right. There were things that transpired that for many of us, we didn't know. We weren't familiar. Then there were perhaps our parents and grandparents, older folks, who may tell us stories about World War II, for instance, or other things where these words were familiar. And as they share with us their experiences, we see a different scenario. And then there are very young who could probably repeat almost verbatim some of the things they hear in the news. The R not, for instance, R not or R2. Then we find out what it is, but this 3 or 4 or 5 year old is fully au fait with all those things, can repeat the names of some of the world scientists because they're in tune. So what is that doing for them, and what is their lives going to be like? So with all that transpiring, and then the question of spirituality and religion and this and that, and then the preaching, the sermon and stuff, make it maybe a little bit more difficult this year for the potential triggers that could put us in a different space.
Well, I'd say for sure. A lot of us are stuck on islands. My family's here, so I'm very blessed for that. But a lot of people, some of my family is away, and a lot of people aren't going to be with family this year. Even in other countries, even if they are in the same country, they're not allowed to be together. So it's going to be a lot of new things happening this year, which we can try to embrace. But I think it's important, even with new things, there's a sense of loss, and so acknowledging that. So.
Yeah.
Well, I think just to add on, December is an incredibly emotional month. And I remember for years, after I left home for university, I never felt more alone in the month of December. Even though I wasn't really connected with family, there was this grieving of what I wished I would have had maybe. And what it's supposed to be, or what Christmas should be. And it just wasn't. So I felt broke, during this time. But it is a time of grieving. It's a time of celebration. It's a time of ending one year and starting another. And in this particular year, there's everything seems to be magnified just that much more between anxieties and depression and losses that have come because of COVID, and then just not being able to be with family but yet here feeling somewhat grateful that we're not inundated like North America is right now, or the UK. So it's a lot of different feelings going on at once. I just want to back up real quick to when you talked about responding to if you wanted to ask your grandson, how they were feeling and whatnot. It's an interesting thing because it's tied in with how we teach. How we teach feelings from a very young age. I'll give you an example of how I feel like the world doesn't teach grief in the right way. Little Billy, 4 years old, he comes home one day and he loses his goldfish. And Dad comes in and he sees little Billy crying, and his immediate reaction is, don't feel bad, we'll get another one on Saturday. So the two lessons that are taught from a young age is not to feel bad, when it's actually quite normal to be sad, and we'll replace the loss. And that's just a natural reaction for a caretaker to want to help and fix the problem. But then what happens when little Billy's 13 and he loses his grandmother? You can't replace grandma. And you got to feel bad. So from a very young age, we're taught the different wrong ways of dealing with grief. And it's from a very genuine place.
If I like what you shared there. Let me then ask if I can, because I think it all ties into the fact that for obvious reasons, Christmas in this time of year, we will feel that loss. It's going to be magnified significantly. Little Billy's goldfish, and Billy says we want to do a service, a ceremony, or something, and then the family gathers and they go perhaps outside in the backyard, not in the toilet bowl. To what extent do we engage that, get involved in that, and allow that process to unfold? There'll be some who would, stay down the toilet or in the garbage, or too small to fish with. We make light of it, right? Then there are others that may take it to, we do a full funeral program or what have you. Where's that balance there, Jason, from your perspective as we look at grief?
Well, I think it's about meeting the other person where they're at and with what they're feeling. I can't sit here and tell you that your loss isn't as significant as mine because you lost a goldfish and I lost my grandmother. That loss may feel just as significant to you as it does me and my loss. So it's really about acknowledge if you want to help, if you're willing to help, and you ask the question, how you doing? You seem off right now. The last couple of weeks you seem down. Even if it wasn't a loss, it could be something at school. It's asking the question and then acknowledging, what is that other person feeling right now? Looking for the feeling of the person, wow, you must be really upset right now. Okay. Is there anything I can do?
Guide me again, because I want to be, in many instances, as exhaustive as possible. We can cover all the bases, but flip it back for a second. So the discussion isn't the person with the family member, but it's the person in a counseling session with their license, experience, educated, professional. The psychiatrist, for instance, use that as the MD. Is there scope for, can I say, the patient, the client, and the professional to engage in banter for the patient to say, well, you said this, but not argumentative, but questioning and back and forth, and not looking for the person to be told what to do and when to do it and so on, but to question and to verbalize and to engage in that.
If they've got a difference with what the provider has said,
perhaps, or even trying to understand and to. I guess what I'm thinking, sometimes we just take things from what someone says, and our mechanic says, okay, you need to change your oil, and we just change the oil. We don't question, right?
Yeah. Well, that's where. So Jason talks about how other people give advice. Psychologists, counselors, therapists don't give advice. We shouldn't.
Okay.
We are, and I actually believe exactly like Mr. Jason said, where you are the expert on yourself. Our job is to help you find your answers. I actually had a client come back and say, I was going to call you to ask what I should do, and I knew you were going to ask me, what do you think you should do? Because I do believe that the answer is within you. I can tell you what I would do, but that's often not helpful. And the danger with us giving advice is either it works and you have to come back to me every time, or it doesn't work and you can't trust me anymore. That's why a counselor or therapist shouldn't do that. But if something is wrong or something is off, because we do make interpretations sometimes, and so if something isn't correct or didn't connect or I misunderstood, please let us know. We want to know, right? And a lot of times we will take the time to find out what it meant to you, and that's where I think a lot of people come in feeling that they shouldn't, like was talked about, they shouldn't feel how they feel because it was just a goldfish, right? And they feel like they can't talk to family about it, or family's already moved on, and that's where it is okay to come and discuss it with us, and we should want to know what that means to you. And maybe that goldfish was the only person you ever your
first real sort. Okay.
And so, that's where it's helpful for us to take the time to understand. And I'll ask clients, what did that mean? What are your beliefs about death? And is there an afterlife? And what are your family's traditions with that? Right? And so, because I want to hear what they normally do and how, and then we might help them to process that grief and to move through it, which might be doing a full program or just doing something to commemorate them. It's about finding what's right for the person.
Today, you want to jump in? I want to ask you, do you think then young people in particular may feel like they're being dismissed, they're not being valued, and their perspective being appreciated? So they may be talking to the medical doctor, they may be talking to some of the psychiatrist, counselor, psychologist, or even a parent.
Again, I'm only gonna say sometimes young people can feel that way. Again, it's like, oh, you have clothes on your back, you have food on the table, you have shoes on your feet. What is the issue? And I would like to say, it's important to not tell people how they can and cannot feel, because what hurts you might not hurt me. And I can't sit here and say, Mr. Sterling, what I did didn't hurt you. That's not fair to you, and that should never come from me, because I can't tell you how to feel. And I think it's important that we try to refrain from that, because I know even myself, it's like sometimes a reaction to say, oh, you shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't feel that way. Again, I can't tell the person how to feel because I don't know how they're feeling. I didn't go through what they went through. And sometimes young people might feel a little dismissed. Yeah, because, again, they have everything they need, so why should they feel like they're missing something? But sometimes it's just love, it's just a hug. It's just they need a parent to listen. And as a young child, I get that, our parents work. Sometimes we have 2 jobs, 3 jobs. It's also important to be there for your child, because while being there for them, they can be there for you, and that just makes everything a little bit easier. And I think it's important to never forget that your family is always there. Even if they say that they can't be there for the minute, that doesn't mean that they're never there. Like, I have a brother, and I know for sure I can call him anytime, 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and he'll be there for me. I might not talk to him every day, but that's the relationship that we have. And I think it's important to always have someone in your family that you can fall back on. That helps significantly,
Yeah.
And family doesn't have to be blood.
Yeah.
Right. It could be a close friend. It could be a coworker. Someone close.
A trusting person.
Right. Yeah. That's a safe person that's going to be respectful of your process.
That's what Jason said. That loving, trusted, supportive environment that you're around. 2 or 3 people that not gonna tell you what you want to hear, tell you what you need to hear. Gonna show you genuine love and care and concern and good friends.
I have friends that, I have a friend, she's been friends with me for years, and I call her my cousin. I have family that isn't family, but that's because they act like family to me. They've been loyal, and they've been there every time I need them. They're there, and I think that's important to have. A support system is very important to have.
I think it makes a difference between your health and well-being. You got this person, maybe it's a restless night for whatever reason. You had an interview, you're not sure you're going to get the job, you have an exam coming up and you can't get to sleep, or whatever it is.
I can call her 3 o'clock in the morning and I know she will answer. And to me, that's a great feeling. The worst feeling is saying that you have people around you still feel alone. That's a very bad feeling.
Wow. So. I always say, man, it's one thing to be, alone. Maybe lonely and not alone, but be alone and not lonely. 2 different things, because you can be lost in a crowd and by yourself, or you could be by yourself and, just as happy as, as I say.
True. Yeah.
All right. I know we're wrapping up our discussion at 1:30, and I think as the year sort of draws so close, I joke that's part of my coping mechanism. I say this year has been the longest century ever, but it's continuing day in and day out. And as Ms. Janae was saying, how do you know this day doesn't turn into a week, that doesn't turn into a month, doesn't turn into a year, and 50 years later, you look back at the person and know you've seen it. Yeah, but had you accepted that very first day, it was there. It's just gotten worse. So for Christmas and for today, what do we do in terms of acknowledging what we're feeling, what we're sensing in others, and accessing the resources and making ourselves healthy?
Yeah. Well, I'd say it's often very busy. So during the holidays, it's often very hectic and stressful. The shoulds, which Mr. Jason had mentioned, often get us. You should be doing this. I should be feeling this way. I should be doing that. So taking a break from everything, taking some time just to relax and to be you and to reflect on everything, acknowledging feelings if they are coming up, acknowledging stress if it is affecting you, and making time for the things that do make you happy. Especially some people that are more introverted, all the Christmas parties are actually a lot of stress. So, making sure you make time for the gym or for the beach, or to spend time with your one best friend that you, just him or her, just for some downtime in the midst of everything. So
the shoulds, Jason, that's sometimes what occupies us, and for us to step away from that's stressful in and of itself. I should be preparing that turkey, I should be ordering and engaging that Christmas beef. These are the shoulds in a limited extent.
Yeah, I always say, why don't you stop shitting on yourself?
So don't
because as soon as I say should, I should or shouldn't, I feel a foot going on my throat, and I feel like I'm already underneath something trying to get out of, that I'm not okay the way I am. So, there's a certain amount of acceptance, I've had a battle with what my body should look like, and that I should be 50 pounds lighter than I always am all my life. And it wasn't, as long as I should be skinnier, I should be doing this, I could never achieve it. But as soon as I start accepting myself the way it is, then I can be better. I just want to, is this my wrap up right now? Is this my summary?
If you want it to be, it should be.
It should be. It could be. If we use the word could, it's much more powerful. I could be using this time to wrap up. Just in terms of spirituality, religion, mental health, the one thing I wanted to say first off is, if you have anybody that's telling you what you should be doing or shouldn't be doing or need to be doing, and they're very close-minded and they think they know what's best for you, I'm tempted to question that, because I don't even know what's best for myself half the time, let alone best for another human being. Even when I'm counseling, I throw lots of things out there that they could try, and I'm willing to walk the journey to see if it helps or not, but I don't profess to know what will work for another person. With God, spirituality, religion, all of that stuff. As Dr. Bodden said, spirituality sometimes is a very different definition of what religion has of God or a higher power. And I think what it comes down to is, if we have peace in our mind, then that's probably mental health rather than mental illness. When we're filled with negative thoughts and shoulds and unhelpful feelings and distress and all this kind of stuff, then there's something I have to find a meaning in that suffering. Both, Viktor Frankl in psychology and the Christians will say, there's a meaning for the suffering. And it gives us hope to, even when we're suffering through unhelpful thoughts and negative feelings, that we can tolerate that. DBT is focused on distress tolerance. We can manage these feelings. We can manage these thoughts. We don't have to change them. We just have to accept them. And we can actually find meaning later through this. And if there's one thing that I always remember, one of my mentors, whenever anything bad happens to me, he says, if you can stop and say, I can't wait to see how God's going to use this one, then it changes my attitude right away. Because I don't get, I don't, get all grumpy and stuff, but I can actually say, okay, there must be a meaning for this.
That's great, my friend. All right. Miss Janae, any thoughts you may want to leave with our listeners for today? Hopefully they'll be able to join us again soon.
I just want to say, like what Mr. Jones said, if you can't change it, don't dwell on it. Like, just accept what you cannot change. I promise you will stress less. And I think it's important to be there for yourself as much as you want to be there for people, because sometimes we leave ourselves last, and it's important that we kind of put ourselves first sometimes, because everyone else is putting themselves first, and there's nothing wrong with putting ourselves first. So it's important to remember that.
Thanks for telling me, because I struggle with that. Everybody else comes first. And that is such powerful advice. Two of my sisters always say that, and I never listen. They probably listen, but I get in there. So Dr. Bodden, the resources are available. Dr. Bodden website is there, but
drbodden.com. So our information will be there, as well as resources that we've talked about today. In the community, Family Resource Center, Counseling Center, FRC is 949-0006. They do a lot of parent coaching and a lot of parent support, which can be helpful at really at any time of the year. Counseling Center does free counseling for all ages, including couples and families, and that's 949-8789. The hospital, in case of emergencies, if there are any concerns with suicide or any kind of severe concerns, definitely go straight to the hospital, which is HSA, the emergency room, or A&E. And there's also a hotline that we have available, because a lot of times crises happen at night, and a lot of times depression, anxiety get worse at night, and we don't always have someone available to talk to. So that's going to be 943-2422, 943-2422, and that's a hotline that's available through Crisis Center. And so there's help around, there's help available. If you're going through something, if you got a family member going through something, and I didn't mean to say don't ask, but if you're going to ask, I ask that you be open and non-judgmental. You should always check in on your child, even if you don't believe in mental health. It's always good to check on them. I didn't mean to sound like
no. But thanks for
ask.
Yeah.
But if you do ask, please be open to hearing what the child has to say, especially because a lot of our young people are better versed in mental health than we are. And a lot of them are experiencing things in the U.S. that haven't even made it here yet, because culturally we're so closely tied. I'd say this year there's going to be a lot of new things, so try to be as flexible and adaptable as you can, which may mean not being able to attend certain religious practices or certain family things or certain functions. So being open to new ideas and seeing ways that you guys can maybe start some new traditions. So be kind to yourself, understand the feelings, the difficult feelings that come up, enjoy the good feelings that come, hopefully some good food too. There's help available if there are difficulties, but a lot of things are going to look a little different this year, and that's okay. So do the best you can to make the most of it.
And don't see it as a sign of weakness, see it as a sign of strength to seek help.
For sure. I think anyone who asks for help is so courageous, and I have huge respect for all of my clients. I learn so much from them every day.
Well, I really say this every day, and thanks very much for helping us to facilitate this on a monthly basis. I believe it's helping the community to appreciate the importance of our overall health and well-being. Looking forward, God's willing, to next year's, it's like, the 12 days of Christmas, well, the 12 months of Mental Health Matters. So.
Awesome.
All right, we're going to pause and take a break. When we come back, we're going to have open line, slight schedule change, but hey, open line. If I can encourage Susan and maybe our colleague Anita to sing a Christmas song, now that would be awesome. I mean, that's a miracle in the weekend. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Kirk Free Freeport's $40,000 Christmas sweepstakes is back. Spend $100 on your favorite Kirk Freeport store, and you could win one of 3 $5,000 cash prizes or one of 5 $1,000 cash prizes. All purchases of $100 before noon on Christmas Eve qualify for all remaining prize draws. There will be the annual Rolex watch prize draw on January 4th and loads of other great prizes. Our small boxes give big surprises and a Christmas full of great prizes. Full details on KirkFreeport.com. Merry Christmas from everyone at Kirk Freeport.
Stronger, wider, higher, lighter. The all-new Ford Ranger Raptor. Powerfully built with a 2.0 diesel Panther engine and 210 horsepower. Modern with leather interior and 8-inch touchscreen, Sync 3 technology and power features. Tough, built to handle the off-road with 4-wheel drive, terrain modes, and a 10-speed automatic transmission. Coming early October to Vamped Motors, Walkers Road. To find out more and to test drive the bold new Ford Ranger Raptor, visit Vamped Motors, Walkers Road, or call 949-8288.
The New Self-Help Community Foundation presents the 19th Annual Talent Exposition of the Arts with their first ever virtual concert. Get your tickets now at eventpro.ky. Streaming live on December 13th. You don't want to miss this. With performances by Erica Asai, Caitlin Tyson, Miss Universe 2018, Rico Rolando, Terry Williams, UCCI dancers, Lloyd Barker, Rita Estevanovich, Dream Chasers K-Man, Mariah Padwa, Shantae Ramoon, Duncan Anderson, K-Man Music School, Zariah Anglin, Centerpoint Dance Company, Richie T, JC Patrick, Miss World K-Man, and more. The Talent Exposition of the Arts, first ever virtual concert, broadcasting live December 13th. Get your tickets today at eventpro.ky.
The road to becoming a British Overseas Territories citizen just became a lot smoother. You can now apply online at online.odg.gov.ky. If you or someone you know needs to be naturalized or registered as a British Overseas Territories citizen, or if you are a citizen and need to replace your lost or damaged certificate, complete the process at online.odg.gov.ky.
It is the season of giving, and there is no better place to shop than Penha, Mac, and Victoria's Secret. Amazing savings on already low prices, and when you sign up for the Penha loyalty card, you get 3% back on all your purchases. And while you shop, enter raffles to win major prizes up to $5,000. Penha, Mac, and Victoria's Secret on 40 Cardinal Avenue in Georgetown.
Do you remember when 2020 was great?
I don't think it was
2020 vision, not the year.
Right.
Make 2020 great again with Optical Outlook, the new West Bay store now open. With their designer frames and sunglasses, eye health has never looked so good. Call 746-2020 and book your eye exam today at Caymanian Village and now at Jake Scott Plaza in West Bay, offering premier eye care in Cayman for over 30 years. Come see the difference with Optical Outlook.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Afternoon, welcome back. Thanks for joining us, and thank you so much for being a part of our discussion. I believe that anyone who works with an organization that can have the level of pride and respect, that I think we at Radio Cayman have for our team members, for the incredible job that they do, and that the way we are so invested in their community. In a few minutes, we'll get a chance to show you how our team members participate. But first, if my colleague Anita, one of our young mentors would just join us for a second. We're going to go to the phones, join Mr. Michael Havlin from the Lions Club Grand Cayman for a bit. Here's an organization that has been around. I think Mr. Havlin was about 4 or 5 years old, so about 1,000 years ago when the Lions Club was formed. Mike, is that right? Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Sterling. How are you?
I'm having fun, man. I'm blessed and I'm grateful. Thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to share with us some of the upcoming things that the Lions Club Grand Cayman in particular going to be doing this year and this Christmas season.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the last time I was on with Kathy Miller, she held a really good seat there for you, kept it nice and warm.
All right.
Job. So, yes, today I'm on the radio to ask the parents of our young people, our youth, to consider dropping them off at our All-Ireland Kids Christmas party that we're going to be holding at the Lions Centre this coming Sunday. So we also have a bus service. I sent you the flyer for that. The bus service is the one that we usually do through Mr. Tony and Mr. Renee, coming from the north side at 12 o'clock and coming from the West Bay Town Hall at 12 o'clock in the two opposite directions.
All right. And there's going to be, do you know, I mean, I should probably do, but this Lions, Children's Christmas Party has been ongoing for many, many, many years.
Oh, yes.
And it's a phenomenal way for the community to show its support. In addition to all the other sort of drives and gifts that we do at Christmas, I think this one brings people together in a way that shows the presence and the power of the Lions. Huh?
Yes.
This Sunday.
Well, yeah, this is how we like to share out the community funds that we receive and the very kind donations in the toy drives as well. So we have a Santa Claus, of course. We have armbands for children in the ranges of their age groups. And so the appropriate toy gets to the appropriate child. And as I said to Miss Kathy, even though it's been a year, and I know some parents are probably going to not like what I say, but I think every child deserves to be on the nice list this year. So that's what I want to do. So in consideration of that, I want to offer cotton candy, wings, cake, drinks, pizza, and some activities. We've got Super C, the DJ there. We've got bouncy castles. We're going to have face painting from Miss Shilpa. We're going to have some musical chairs and some action on stage, maybe some dance-offs, those kind of things. So that's from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock on Sunday.
At the Lions Centre? At
the Lions Centre, yes. And as I said, while we are planning that party, we have had barrels out there. So we've had barrels placements at the Water Authority, the Cayman Compass. Last wet Saturday lunchtime, we had the Christmas market at Compass, and despite the weather, Rory the Lion made an appearance, and we did get a few gifts there. So thanks to the employees and the visitors there. And then also we have the gas stations, Jose's, Delworth Mike's, the Mike's at Walker's Road, Boilers Road, Brown's Esso. Peanuts, Brown's, Esso, Red Bay. And if anybody else wishes to contribute from companies or ever, I've got a lovely company, JTC, at Camana Bay, dropping off. We can drop off to either fellow Lions that you may know in the community, because these people have been around forever. I'm humbly saying I've only been a Lion for 4 or 5 years, although I have been in the community for over 26. So it's nice to be able to give that back. So we're all planning to be on all hands on deck on Sunday and make it nice and safe for the children.
I really appreciate you and your fellow Lions, the commitment to our community, but also the corporate citizenship exhibited, not just each year at this time, but, almost on a daily basis. So thanks very much. Maybe as the week rolls on, there may be an opportune time to remind our listeners, but it's this Sunday from 1 p.m. at the Lions Centre?
Yeah, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., yeah. So we also have a special event on Friday for our Lighthouse School children. Mm-hmm. We always, every year, provide the party for those children. They actually put their list into Santa quite a while ago, and the children are going to be expecting Santa Claus at about 11:30 on Friday morning, and hopefully they should get a treat there as well.
Perfect. Again, much is being done in the community to support, encourage, and just show the love for many. So thank you very much.
Yeah, not at all. And again, just wanted to thank the community for all the donations, not just through the buckets for the funds for the needy, but also the tickets that they bought for the Rotary, for the Lions Benzorama draw. Obviously, not everybody could win. And the back of each ticket did say all the items that we use the money for, like our social services, our pantry, vision is our number one priority, and all our other ventures. So thanks to the community, and I look forward to seeing some of your children and grandchildren this Sunday.
Indeed, man. Well, thank you. Have a safe and a blessed week, and talk to you very soon.
Thank you, Lan. Thank you, Sterling.
All right. Well, Lions Club Grand Cayman member, Mr. Michael Havley. oh, Miss Anita Khan, or familiar voice, not just on Saturday mornings. I kind of like associate Saturday mornings already came on with you for some reason. But now, as you pick up the buzz and see all the other things, thanks for taking a minute and jump into our studio with us.
Oh, anytime, Sterling. Anytime. How are you?
Oh,
good to have you back.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Had a nice long staycation. Did some home projects.
Listen.
Unless you went to Cayman Brook or Little Cayman.
I wish I had. I wish I had. This is probably one of the times when you take a vacation and you're only physically sort of absent, or in my case, visually absent. You're not really away, but you're mindful and you're and grateful that you're still living in this time. But thank you very much for bringing along Miss Hannah. Before I ask her through you, Miss Anita, maybe you do the intro. Miss Susan wants us to take the break first. Want to do that? And okay. She says, what do you think? Anita's the boss.
Oh, yeah, I'm the boss. I'm the boss of Susan.
Right. So I know who to call now. All right. I found somebody.
Well, again, Sterling, good afternoon to our listeners. It's Anita, of course, and with Sterling here. And Sterling dragged me into the studio. kicking and roaring. And today I have on a workplace visit Miss Hannah Hamad. Hannah is a student at CCC, and she's also she's in the mentoring program, the Chamber of Commerce mentoring program, and I'm her mentor. She's my mentee. That means we look after each other. I learn from her. She learned from me.
She helped you to grow as a person, huh? Right.
Yes, and she loves being around the folks at Radio Cayman, and this is her second workplace visit. I've had her in the studio with me on a Saturday morning, I think twice or once. Yeah, but Hannah's been airing ads, and she's been sitting in with she started with Kathy in the last time she was here on Talk Today. Now she's here with you. Yeah, she sat with Susan this morning. She sat with Paul. She just did a little bit of recording for Mr. Banks. So she's learning the ropes. She's learning the ropes. She'll be maybe in newsroom. She'll get she'll see what's happening in the newsroom. But basically, it's not about interning or anything like that. This is basically learning to see how your mentor, works within our environment, and she gets to see what it's like, on a day-to-day basis. She'll tell you more about what she's interested in and all the good stuff. Okay. But this is a learning ground for her and for me as well, because I get to be a part of her school, well, not schooling, but see how she operates in school. I learn from her about her exams and what's going on, and it's a great relationship. Yeah, and actually, Hannah is my sixth mentee.
Perfect. Well, Miss Hannah, with great reference, and Tony just comments about deference to you. Maybe after the break, we could invite you to share with us. I enjoyed listening earlier to I say maybe that's a new voice with one of the different commercials, and it took me a few minutes to realize, this is the same thing I heard a few segments back, to realize it was a recording. Excellent.
Yeah. So we've been working her.
No. We've been developing her talents.
Working her. Wilson actually so.
No labor laws were broken. No pension. All right. But after the break, could we laugh with you, learn a little bit from you, and engage you?
Can I leave her with you, Sterling?
You gonna leave her?
Get some work done.
See what? Okay. If Miss Hannah is comfortable,
thank you for having her, Sterling.
All right. After the break, we talk to her, and there's a call in the queue, Miss Susan. All right, we'll get that call as well. All right. Please join us right after the break.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Rotary. We've been part of the beginnings, the then and now of the Francis Bodden Girls Home in Bodden Town and the Bonaventure Boys Home in West Bay. Rotary Central, along with community partners assisting students to overcome barriers on their path of learning during this pandemic. Thousands of dollars in laptops. Support for the annual Rotary Island-wide health check and diabetes training by Rotary. The National Blood Bank, supported by Rotary since 1999. Lives saved, lives restored. Just a little of what we've done and continue to do. Rotary opens opportunities.
Fidelity Bank would like to thank all essential workers. We salute your efforts and thank you for the sacrifices you've made to keep us all safe. During these challenging times we're facing, our top priority is the health and safety of the communities we serve. And while it's true that things are changing rapidly every day, one thing that will never change is our commitment to giving you the best and sound financial solutions to help you during and after the coronavirus pandemic. At Fidelity Bank, our focus will always be you. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Attention Caymanians, the registration deadline for the 2021 elections is January 4th. Caymanians turning 18 on or before the May 26 election may register now.
Every vote will count in our May 2021 general election.
In order to vote in the 2021 elections, you must register by the 4th of January. For more information, visit elections.ky or the elections office at Baytown Office Suites opposite the Wharf Restaurant.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us. It is open line and we're honored to be able to again showcase not just our team and the commitment to the community, but how Radio Cayman at least invites and encourages the brilliant minds in our community to consider the media and broadcasting and radio in particular. One of Miss Anita Khan's mentors sits with us, Miss Hannah. But before we continue the discussion, let's go to their phones and join. I think we have a caller waiting. Oh, we had a caller waiting, but I think lunch called, and so we do apologize to our caller. Yeah, sometimes, understandably so, the wait is too long. But as you, your mentor, yes, Anita was sharing, mentee. Yeah, sounds like something you'd want to add milk to and drink. Mentee. Thank you. That wonderful smile, I think, is so encouraging. That's where our students, they love life, they embrace knowledge, and that is so. Thank you for sitting in with us for a few minutes. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
All right. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm really excited to be on air today, actually.
Yeah, because it's a Monday, right? I mean, that's of all the days, Mondays are the best day. If you don't allow me to ask, and for me, it's probably because if there was ever a job that I think I would never do, it would be radio, television, the media. And the writing, I don't mind. You can write and give it to people. They can comment on it. It's written. It's there. But to be a presenter, whether it's in news, to be a journalist, an investigator, to be a talk show host on radio, oh no, man, that's not for me. What's your interest, if I may ask? What do you think you want to do?
I want to do something with my life that's creative, but would also help people.
On the corner, that's good.
Yeah, no.
Oh, I can pay for that one later.
Just anything that just doesn't have to do with math.
Yeah, no, okay.
But yeah, it's things that are just very hands-on.
Hands-on?
Yeah.
So graphic arts and design and maybe advertising. I see the different media platforms melding, I recall way back when there was some talk of the TV, the radio, what would become the internet, all that being just one thing. And some of the people going, well, how is that possible? That's not possible. Now it's, that and more. So you want to use all of those sort of technologies and platforms into something?
Yeah, maybe most what I want is to help people, right? So if that means using a talk show to reach out to people, or to use a television show to reach out to people, that is like what I want to do.
Okay. With a view to age getting informed and empowered, to be like some of the talking heads and political pundits to just sell propaganda. I mean, I can see the youth today want to make a very meaningful, positive difference and being informed.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you, and this was why I wish Miss Anita was there, because I kind of like that. I like when I'm talking to a student. For those who are listening, she's just right in the background. She's so close to me that I can... no, I just believe that, adults need to be very, very respectful to, even as a teacher or as a parent, to the young people, so that they understand that they're valued and appreciated in their own right. But they're in a space where they have a sense of ownership and control. And so with that, whatever I ask or say, you take it on board and you say, nope, not answering that, nope, not, that's fine. With that in mind, though, do you think that today's society and today's people, not just the young, but specifically young, since they'll stay, on earth longer, all things remain the same, are they more at risk of perhaps not just being marginalized, but controlled and manipulated, misinformed, and even maligned, in a sense?
Yeah, I do, because I think that, well, first of all, the internet is a big thing now, right? And a lot of things on the internet can be altered, and there's a lot of what you could say fake news, and people can take that and change it into conspiracy theories and just believe those things.
I would ask a question. You choose to answer a comment if you wish. But what I heard from a few people, we talk about as educators or as parents wanting their children in environments where they're taught to become critical thinkers and learners and to question things, trust but verify, so to speak. And then we talk about the notion that you must be able to question this thing in a way, be able to go to an authoritative source, oh yes, this is what it was, and to see whether it's been changed, altered, sometimes maliciously, sometimes just inadvertently, a comma was left off or another word was added, little things that significantly changes, what it was intended to mean.
Yeah, I think your meaning is like people, like teachers changing the way they're teaching is like teaching kids to learn how to learn. So if you're said something, don't believe exactly what they say until you go out and you go and look it up and go look for the right answer.
If I could then ask then, as you shared, the internet being this thing that is almost across the globe, almost everybody can probably get access, relatively speaking. Right. The penetration rate in Cayman is probably higher than most places according to our statistics, but nonetheless, are we at a risk that if we go online and we jump onto some search engine and we ask for some information, that what we get back, A, that we're going to believe it fully, or B, are we confident that we can trust whatever this thing is that we've asked for and now it's come back to us, as we could once when we go to the library and take a book from the reference section and it was brought to us in the glove container and you had to get permission to look at it. This was the old source. Is that at risk now that maybe you might get something differently? And but thanks for your time as you were sharing.
I think the best thing to do is just to get like your information from a good source, and not like a source that will be like altered or can be altered by people, just like typing things in where everyone can edit it. So just get your sources from a well source.
Again, if it's okay to ask you, do you think as young people but as society we are distrustful of what we see as accepted, and what was respected media? So if you wanted to know what's happening, you turn on this television news channel or you pick up this particular news information source and they reported it, so therefore it must be the accurate thing. Do you think that is still that level of credibility and trust, or has that been, again, my words, corrupted over the time, and we're like, That's for sure. What do you think the general perception is, young people in particular, but society in general?
I think young people in particular will see things that are online and believe it, but they just don't go into like looking into it and seeing if what they're seeing is correct. And I think that to go the extra mile to see if that's correct is definitely, it takes up a lot of time, but it also gives you the right information, and it also helps you to get the correct information so that you can spread it out to people and not spread out false news.
It can be very harmful and destructive and divisive as well, you know.
Of course, especially in COVID time, if if they say, oh, the vaccine is killing people or things like that, then you can't really like trust that source until you go and look it up or you go look for it.
I like the fact that, you know, as you're sharing, we need to be responsible. We also need to be discerning, and we also need to accept that there's an obligation, if you're a physician or you're a politician, to be, you know, trustworthy and to be competent, because our children's lives, our very well-being here and now is at stake, irrespective of whether it's a financial obligation or it's, you know, some venue and you're not making it safe because the structure, you know, was put up in a shoddy way. It's like, we got a news break coming up. We want to spend a few minutes with us after the news?
Yeah.
All right. We're going to take your calls. We're going to talk about everything. I believe we can learn a lot from our young students. I believe we owe it to them because they're going to inherit the land, but they have to also enjoy it now. So we have to do a lot for them to make sure the future is bright, but that what they have now is safe and secure and nurturing. So join us after the news. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, you know, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm April Cummings. In a parliamentary question posed today, Newlands MLA Alva Saku asks whether the Cayman Islands are on track to meet the 70% renewable energy targets by 2027, as stated in the National Energy Policy. Infrastructure Minister, the Honourable Joseph Hew, in response, outlined several initiatives underway to achieve the goal. He says OFREG has approved a renewable energy auction scheme that's to kick off in 2021, which will follow the Integrated Resource Plan roadmap. OFREG, he says, has also approved a battery storage system for CUC, which will allow 12 megawatts of capacity to be added as distributed energy resources, providing more capacity to expand core and DER programs, bringing the islands closer to the target by 2025. In international headlines, leaders of Britain and the European Union were holding a high-stakes phone call today for the second time in 48 hours, as the two sides sent out gloomy signals about the chances of breaking an impasse and securing a post-Brexit trade deal before the current relationship winds down at the end of the month. Most parts of the U.S. state of California are under a strict new lockdown as COVID-19 continues to surge across the country there. The stay-at-home order affects around 85% of the state's 40 million people. It will be in place for at least 3 weeks and cover the Christmas holiday. Many businesses will be closed, and people will be banned from meeting anyone outside their household. U.S. singer-songwriter Bob Dylan sells the rights to his entire back catalog to Universal Music Group. The deal is one of the biggest acquisitions in Universal's history, and it means the company will collect all future income from the songs. It includes both the income Dylan currently receives as a songwriter and his control of each song's copyright. The 79-year-old is known all over the world for songs like The Times They Are A-Changing and Like a Rolling Stone. Those are your headlines. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, I'm April Cummings.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Your voice, your choice, your radio.
Miracle Brokers International, your worldwide movers and freight forwarders, continues to work hard to improve their expertise to provide you with the first-class service you have come to expect. Now, together with Consolidated Freight Line, CFL, the specialist in logistical and global cargo solutions, customers can rely on an expanded team of moving professionals that gets the job done in a timely manner. Whether it's your prized possessions, full container loads, less than container loads, ro-ro cargo, or construction equipment, from door to port services, or across the oceans, from destinations such as the US, Canada, Asia, the Caribbean, Central and South America, among others. Miracle Brokers and CFL combined networks offers hundreds of expert connections that take the stress out of moving and shipping services. Call today for your free estimate, 949-5989. You can also log on to www.miraclebrokers.com. Miracle Brokers is located at the end of Kingbird Road, just past CUC. Miracle Brokers, the art of packing and moving, 949-5989.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. One of our students is our colleagues, Anita Khan's mentor. And thanks for sitting in with us and sharing a day away from the classroom for some students. Celebrated for some. It's like, you know how much work I got to make up for because it's not a free day. There's a lot that goes on. Mm-hmm. Students like yourselves who are not just academically engaged, but you're involved in other things. It's a balance. You were talking earlier, and thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for your time. Hopefully, other parents listening would be encouraged through you as we involve and invest in our children. Mm-hmm. But other your classmates equally take up the mantle and do. I'm sure you've probably asked this amongst yourselves and even your class. What are the one thing, the 10 things, the 1,000 things that for you and your peers that either A, just being ignored and you need to be addressed, or B, whether it's being addressed or not, is perhaps the most pressing thing or the most pressing things? I mean,
one of the most.
Yeah. Sorry. So let's start asking first. What is that one thing or two things most pressing, most important, most urgent that
that needs to be expressed?
Yeah, that you need to. Yeah.
Honestly, there's some things that need to be talked about, but nothing really urgent. I think the workload at school. Mm-hmm. I think that personally, if you get like a ton of work at school, right, it would be harder for a student to actually learn what they're getting. What
it's busy work, huh? Yes, occupying your time, but you're not really learning anything.
You're not actually learning. You're just doing it to get it done.
Yeah, I thank you for sharing that too. I think increasingly parents and educators are recognizing that you don't need to give me 100 math problems just to occupy my time.
Just give
one
me
or two
one.
Is more than enough.
Help us work through it and give us a few extra practice questions, yes, but to give us like 100 questions, and that's exaggerating, but 100 questions in one sitting, like I'll just be rushing through it to get it done so that I can get a good mark.
You're doing it to the task as opposed to the instruction, as it were.
And to learn it. That's what we're here at school for, right?
And does it take away then from the opportunity to maybe engage in other activities, whether it's academic or sport or other things, the creative side?
It takes some time away from that, and I think the creative side is being lost, and we need to gain it back because it's a very important part of our lives, and
I think, and thank you for saying that. And hopefully that parents, but those of us who are somehow have the ear of educators and policymakers will take that on board. Think, for instance, look at the person who is on an extended holiday or is now somewhat retired and don't have to worry too much about what the day is like. That person, she can plan her day.
Mm-hmm.
They're reading more if they choose. They're drawing or painting or doing poetry or doing things that are creative that are very beneficial because they're no longer busy making ends meet, right?
Right.
And then the outcome, this product now that as a result, is so beneficial. But yet they can't do that when they were, say, working full time.
Right.
Because they're just paying the bills, right?
Because you got to start it off young. You got to get them into the arts and so that they can find like a job in that field. Whereas you still have people who will do jobs in other fields, but the arts is very important.
Okay. With that in mind, with the arts and the creative sort of expression and the notion that perhaps one of the best ways to convey information, using a graphic, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words sometimes. With the way our young people are interconnected, they know as much about what's happening everywhere all the time.
Yes.
Talk to us about how does that play into interaction, the development, the notion of how things affect and impact you, how you being, the young people these days, how they're impacting and affecting those things.
I think over social media, for sure.
That's the phrase, huh?
Yes, yes. Especially like our generation is so like we're tied. We're like close, right? We can connect with each other. Someone from Cayman can connect with someone from all the way in Brazil, and they can have a conversation because of the social media.
And the time zones don't really make much difference.
Yeah. And through arts and music and things like that, it can be, it's a vast. You can communicate from anywhere in the world.
Guide me in this, please. And again, I think as parents, teachers as well, adults in general, we worry about the safety, of our children online. They'll be talking, even if they're talking to someone in their age group. What are they talking about? What is happening here? Are they being led astray? But then there are also other people who don't have very good intentions. How dangerous, how susceptible and vulnerable do you think that is? Are we as parents just overly cautious now? Like crossing the road, we make sure that the traffic stops for 5 days before you can cross the road, as opposed to running between cars. I mean, is it as dangerous? And are we overly worried, or are we not worried enough?
Well, I think it can be very dangerous, but there are, depending on where your child goes on the internet, is ideal for like what dangers they're going to be in. So, I mean, there's dangers wherever you go, even in like real life, other than the social life. I think on social media there is a lot of bad, but there is a lot of good.
Yeah,
a lot.
And you can we learn so much about ourselves and about things that are happening that we probably didn't even realize.
And you can find people who will relate to you, and you can find like help with certain things that's going on in your life, and that's a way that you can reach out to people through media.
So if I can ask, as we speak to Ms. Hannah, as I can ask then, the student in Cayman may be talking, just use the example you use, to the student in Brazil, for example, 2 young boys, 2 young ladies, whichever, high school, college, 2 young professionals. They may know that they're not the only person in the world having this particular issue with parent or with friend or with work or school, but they may feel alone. But here is this person, many time zones, many miles away, exactly experiencing the same thing. So that can help.
And it really helps with the mental part of that, because you will know that you're not the only one in the world, but your brain will tell you, well, that's not true.
Yeah,
You're the only one. You're the only one. But in reality, you gotta have people tell you, oh yeah, I've been through that situation and this is what I did and here's some advice. And that's how humans are comforted.
Mm-hmm.
So
the sense of empathy that you hear the first time, someone who either is going through experiencing this thing or has, and they can relate to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we don't give our young people, we probably don't give ourselves enough credit for the intellect that we have, for how we are discerning. We can see through the nonsense. We can know when someone is not legit, and genuine.
Mm-hmm.
I think our young people have that skill much more so than we give them credit for. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
But as a parent, you're worried about your daughter and your son.
I mean, yeah, of course, of course, because there are dangers, and I think knowing your kid
mm-hmm.
would be the best thing to do first.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that, and knowing that you can give them the right amount of freedoms, but also steer them away from the bad things.
Okay. The conversation earlier with respect to our monthly mental health matters, I know you were probably able to hear bits and pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the acoustics are super. Sometimes just work a little hard.
Uh-huh.
But we were asking, as a parent, as a grandparent, even an older sibling, it's Christmas. We're wrapping gifts. We're preparing food. We're shopping.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing stuff. Maybe it's an opportune time, maybe to genuinely ask and listen for a response. And as you were just sharing, being able to find someone on social media with empathy who can relate to what you have. Maybe want to ask a little bit further in respect of you now have the physical space, the opportunity to physically connect with that person. It could be a sibling, it could be your offspring, as it were. You're not sure how to, because it can, depending on the relationship, it can be awkward.
Right.
Give us some advice.
I think for the youth listening,
mm-hmm.
it's the best to talk to your parents about things. As much as it is hard. What I do is I come in and I talk to my parents about things, and it's the best thing to do because they will give you advice, and yes, you might not agree with it at first.
More likely.
More likely. They'll give you they'll give you advice, and you're not gonna believe it at first.
Mm-hmm.
But they're gonna give you good advice, and you're gonna grow on it. And I mean, there are some things that you could still disagree with, and that's just how we grow as people, right? We grow and we make our own opinions, and
I like what you shared, because a parent loves the child just unconditionally
mm-hmm.
and wants the very best. And
mm-hmm.
but sometimes as parents, though, you do it because I told you. I know better. I've been through this.
Right.
We don't mean to be that way, but that's probably how it comes across, right?
Right.
So maybe we'll come back from the break. Maybe and we'll talk about anything and everything else that you're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can tell us as parents, well, don't say it that way. Say it this way.
Right.
So that we can hear what you say. Would you help us with that?
Yeah.
I want to know, because I could probably learn too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how much here, but I can still learn. All right. I'm going to pause and take a break. When you come back, very, very grateful to Miss Anita for allowing us to have the opportunity to speak to her mentor. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. We are a not-for-profit, member-centric plan with a democratically elected volunteer board of trustees representing all sectors of the Cayman Islands economy. We have an all-in expense ratio of less than 1%, over 20,000 members, and $490 million in assets under management. We were the first multi-employer pension plan approved by the regulator in the late 1990s, and today we are still strong, secure, and are here for our employees and employers alike. If you would like to join or require further information, visit chamberpension.ky. And for information as it happens, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go, Puritan Cleaners.
By popular demand to serve our valued customers, Puritan Cleaners has revised its schedule for all 3 locations effective immediately. Monday to Saturdays, Eastern Avenue from 7:30 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. Elgin Avenue from 8 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. Savannah Countryside 10 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. Your orders may be transferred to any other Puritan store to suit your working and shopping needs. Let us help you to be ready for those special events coming up. Call 949-7104. Puritan Cleaners, you feel good when you look good.
We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of the Lord.
Radio Cayman, this is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Sing your praise to the Lord. Come on, everybody, stand up and sing one more. Hallelujah, give your praise to the Lord. We are united in Jesus Christ. We are the soldiers of the land.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
There's a meeting up in heaven. Roll call. It's a name in the Lamb's Book of Life. Roll call, brother, sister. Roll call. If you don't stop shouting, if you don't stop dancing, we're going to put you out of our church.
Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Your song flowed through my lips. Your work moved through my hands. Your thoughts stay on my mind. Live in me.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And we have, the wonderful presence of one of our young students, Miss Hannah, joining us as part of the mentorship program. And I think having, she doesn't mind me saying, someone like Miss Anita, I won't say it just because she's a grandmother as well, but she has that experience. She's not that close by. It takes her a couple minutes to get back into the studio. I mean, she's a grandmother after all, right? But no, she's just a loving, nurturing, caring person who wants to see the very best in our society, but for our young people. I've known her now, for a long, long, long time. I say she's a grandmother, she's old. I've known her almost all my life. She's a fantastic friend and an amazing lady. And so thanks, to you agreeing and sharing. Mm-hmm. But I was asking though, as parents sometimes, even though we probably know better, we probably always want the very best for our children in every circumstance, and it hurts us when it doesn't work. But we talk to them in a way sometimes that it's not being communicated effectively, it doesn't get through. Right. We think we're saying, oh, I love you, Miss Susie, you're my precious baby, and it comes across, listen to me now, if you don't go do that, I'm going to, there's a mistranslation and loss. So how do we speak so that they can hear?
I think it depends on the kid, the age of the kid, first of all.
Okay.
So if you have a young child, right, talking to your young child would be like, oh, maybe you shouldn't do that, but you should also be more stern as well. Because I think they'll learn that you need to respect your parents and respect that they are authority, right?
Okay.
They're there for you, and they don't have to do what they're doing for you. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But they should.
oh, they should.
They should.
Oh, okay. No, but you're right. Though. I mean, not to just cut you, but interject.
Mm-hmm.
I love chocolate, and so there's the last piece of chocolate cake, or there's the last truffle.
Mm-hmm.
Most parents I know will leave it for the child, right? Some parents go, "Hey, you snooze, you lose, boy." It was there, right? So there's that aspect of it.
Right. Right.
So you got to know your child. All right. I'm going to come back to you with talking about that, but let's pick up this caller as we go to the phones.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon to you, Sterling Graham.
Good afternoon, sir.
That lovely young lady there talking to Miss Anita
on
the phone. All that here on. And just quickly say, you know, we have to think that as parents, we might think, and grandparents, that we have to be perfect, set a perfect example. And that often trips us up, and that often trips up anybody who strives. I learned after quite a few years as an adult that if you strive for perfection, you end up with mediocrity. What you try and do, I learned that, that's my personal opinion. What you do is try and do the very best you can at any time. It might not be good enough, but sometimes it's more than good enough. And that's life. Years ago, you know, a lot of young people had to leave school at 12, 14 years old. They had no choice. A lot of young men here went national bus at 15 and 16 years old.
Yes, sir.
Dublin West be good friends. And they had to become a man at 15, and girls were taking care of younger siblings at 14, 15. That you would be a woman at that time. So it's a little bit different now than you have people in university still at 25 or just going to college or still just living at home. And it's a different thing, and we have to put things in perspective. I remember leaving school. I just go this and get off the phone. I remember there was a reverend who gave it so long ago, long time, at our graduation, a talk, and I never forgotten what he said, never, and it's way, way closer, much closer to 60 years, that he said, you know, you may never find a job that you really like, but just go out there and get a job and do it. He said you may never rise above maybe just a head of a department on a big company on the one floor or in a few rooms you're the head, and that's where you have to be satisfied and be thankful, and you raise a family, you may be able to buy a little house or something and the car, and that's the way you have to try to look at it and be satisfied with what you got. You may try and endeavor to do this and do that and be a rocket scientist or be a big professional in the world, and that's good, but you may never get there, so don't live your life in disappointment, sort of, I'm trying to say. But have a wonderful day. Great listening to you, young lady, and all the very best.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very encouraging and very informative and instructive. You know, life is full of promise and potential. Some of us look at it with great expectation. Some of us have a sense of hope and a positive outcome. But some of us, perhaps because of maybe circumstance and experience, aren't as positive. Not to dismiss the realities, but how do we get more? Do you think more of our young people feel a sense of hope and expectation, or should we be concerned that they are maybe only putting forward, you know, what they think we want to see, and we don't really see their true disposition?
I do think that that children do expect things a lot from their parents, and they might never get it, but they always will be. They will always appreciate what they do get.
With that, then, yeah, because it's Christmas, and talking about, you know, getting and wanting and Christmas, and may I respectfully ask then two things. We always talk about, you know, what we can get the young people, the young child, and then sometimes we forget maybe the adolescent, for instance, or even the, you know, that college student. So two things. One, is there a want that, you know, whether you're adolescent, whether you're college grad, or whether you're, you know, in your 30s, for instance, I mean, from your perspective, let's ask that first, that parents are not aware of, you know, that. And then two, you know, what is it? Well, stop that one first.
I think there is a want for adolescent children that they want independence, but they don't want to do it all themselves. You know what I'm saying?
They want support, but they also want to feel that they have a little bit of say.
Yes, and they want to have their own, their own space, their own, you know, thinking space. And, like, to be able to express their own opinions, especially for me, that's a very important thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
To express my opinions and to not have someone say, oh, what you're thinking is maybe not the right thing, and that I should just alter that, subconsciously say that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something ideal that I would want to hear. I would want to hear, yes, I hear your opinion, here's mine, and we can have a simple debate about it.
Yeah. I like that. I think sometimes onlookers probably don't appreciate that parent-child relationship where they can have that debate, that heated discussion, sharing a difference of opinion on whichever. But they've spent years nurturing and creating that so that here's this independent thinker.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be healthy later on in life, right?
Right.
All right. Final thing, as we wrap up, what would you want to say to any and everyone listening, parents, to any of your classmates, as you wish? I mean, it's an interesting year, an interesting season, so
right.
What would you like to share?
I think it doesn't mean that you should teach your children, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't teach your children right from wrong, right? Or discernment, for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it means that you should give them space for their own thoughts, their own ideas, and tell them whether or not that relates to your opinion or your beliefs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's just.
So of all the wants and needs, then this particular Christmas, being with your family, showing love, respect, appreciation. It isn't so much about the gift.
That's important.
I mean,
right.
Probably some of us would like to get something, you know. I have a truck in mind. So we would like the material and the physical. But for some who hearing it, oh yeah, call to time. They like, yeah, I hear it all the time. Just give me the cash. Right. Is that that quality time, that sharing of that meal? I mean, we all have a favorite thing that we like. Is that as important as we come to know it is way down the line, and we're not appreciating it now?
Well, I mean, there's some material things, right? Like getting those chocolates for Christmas.
There you go.
But there's also the most important thing is getting love from your parents.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the most important thing, and in a family, the biggest requirement is love, and so that's the most important thing. There's a material part, but then there's also
love never fails, huh?
Right.
Well, thank you, Miss Anna, for sitting with us, and I hope that as you continue to, mentor Miss Anita. I'm just kidding. I know.
Other way around.
Yeah, I know. No, she shared, and I know she's very sincere. She's learned a lot from you.
Yeah.
So thank you very, very much.
Mm-hmm.
And Radio Cayman is just a wonderful place, an excellent team. So
it is.
Thanks for coming in. All right, Miss Susan, what tomorrow is? Can you say it? It's another day. All right, to our listeners, join us tomorrow for more Talk to David after the midday news and midday meditation. And be sure to tune in for the business buzz. You're going to know why. Until then, be blessed.